I read them. I'm like, I half understood it. I'm like, all right, I got to hit up Steven. So break it down. Gold going up, Bitcoin going up, currencies crashing. Are they going to bring back monetary printing? We somehow got inflation here, but the dollar's stronger over there.
Right.
Other people are engaging in quantitative easing again. Credit Suisse is going under. People are getting bailed out. It's getting wacky. What do you got?
Man, it is getting crazy. And so, first, to go off something you said, it's really interesting. So, there's the DXY, and this is kind of the stock chart of the dollar index. And so, when the dollar is stronger, people are talking about the DXY. The DXY is the dollar relative to the euro, the pound, and the yen. So it's
Okay.
basically so when people say the dollar is strong, they're saying it's stronger than other currencies.
Right.
And so what basically controls the strength of your currency is basically the interest rate, or how much people will want your currency to then invest it just in bonds, just to get interest on it.
Right.
So when interest rates are low, money's trash because you can just take on debt and keep going. So what's happening now is, after this inflation, we seem to be in this economic warfare where now all the currencies across the world are being devalued against the dollar because the Fed, and we're the powerhouse and the reserve currency, we're raising interest rates. And what's really important here, I think, to point out is that we're in this predicament because of Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen, because they thought inflation's transitory, because they're,
Yeah,
fucking
but they didn't
ivory.
really.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah, because you're saying no one can be that ignorant, right? So, right. I agree with that, but just to finish this real quick point, then I
Okay.
would like
Sorry.
talk about that. No, I think that's a really good point. But this is what they're telling us, right?
Right.
So ideally, they really caused this by keeping interest rates so low. They were literally buying mortgage-backed securities in March of this year. What does that mean? That means my parents just got a house in Florida, and they luckily locked in like a 2.5% interest rate. The reason interest rates were so low is because our Federal Reserve is literally loaning my parents money at a loss. They were buying mortgage-backed securities, and who's ever buying a house at these artificially low interest rates, that's because the government lent you money at a loss. So now the Federal Reserve had to change this. So
Can,
now they're yeah
can you explain to me the mechanics on that? Because
yeah
I'm half considering that I'd like to do another end of year recap. I'm half considering. I'll tell you my concerns. I'll state them. I don't think I have it in me to do it at the level I did the last 2 years. I like the format, and I'm thinking about doing one that's looser. But then my ego goes, I don't want to be judged on the more recent one that people like, because the last two I was very happy with. But I just haven't really dug in. One of the topics I'd really like to dig into is I feel like government money is like a deal with the devil,
yes
where you get the money and you're like, this is great. Like I got the thing I want. I get the money, but then it doesn't work. And you're like, but I don't get it. Like I don't understand. And because it came from the devil, you know what I mean? It's like the promise is you're going to get this thing that you want, but then all of a sudden it doesn't work and you don't enjoy it. Like I can't, I don't know. I'm not thinking of a perfect example, but I think everyone understands the concept. And so I think one of the stories there when it comes to government money is that you get it, but then it creates both inflation and asset bubbles, because if they give you money to go purchase something, you're not the only one getting that money, and then all of a sudden, like, your pound of flesh that you were going to have to give to get a house, the government gives it to you. You go, all right, I can afford it. Oh shit, the house price went up, and then
yeah
eventually they fuck you over because they stop making money available, and then your house price crashes on you.
that's
Now,
because or it's
I
not money, it's fiat money.
so my question to you is, because I don't quite understand the mechanics of um, what you just described, of basically that the government's lending you money at a loss, because the money's not coming directly from the government. It's got to get filtered through a bank, and I understand that the bank wants to basically capture spread on the interest rate, so it's a function of, I guess, what they can borrow money at. So I hand it back to you if you could just explain the
Yeah.
mechanics,
So
because I don't
so
get it.
so yeah. So the obviously, like, everyone, when they buy a house, they go through a bank, but that bank sets the mortgage rate based on the interest rates that the government and the Fed set. Of course,
Right.
the government and the Fed are supposed to be separate. But when the Federal Reserve kept interest rates and didn't raise them slowly last year, or a couple years, like they should have done 0.25 basis points 4 times a year starting last year, and it would have been a nice, slow, steady rise. And if I was Jerome Powell, I would say, hey, we're going to raise rates by 0.25 basis points every meeting. So every quarter, we're going to raise and I'm not going to tell you when we're going to stop. And the market would like that. People would like that because it's a slow and steady increase, but it also says we're going to fight inflation because we're going to keep raising, instead of saying, oh, we didn't raise for 2 years, now we're going to do 75 points, now we're going to do 75 points, right?
Right.
And so just to answer your question directly, the bank spread is basically determined by the lower interest rate of what the Federal Reserve sets. So as the Federal Reserve increases interest rates, then the banks who are, joined at the hip with the Federal Reserve raise interest rates too, because that's all the same money supply that they're loaning out. And so basically the Fed says money's going to be worth 5% or more interest now, so you're going to want to hold on to it more. So then the bank says, okay, well then we got to raise rates.
Right. Okay. So we're